Funding for Capitol Forum is made possible in part by a donation from Arizona Public Service. Well, glad to have you with me, President Pearce. I want to talk a little bit about some interesting news that's come from the nonpartisan Joint Legislative Budget Committee. And that is that revenues for the year are up over 8%. And for July, it was over $34 million more. So, you know, there's been a lot of critics about the legislature in general, and you in particular, but apparently you're doing something right.
Well, and my thanks is to this body, both House and Senate, and the governor. We've put Arizona back on a course of recovery. And these are some tough times. We started this last year with a $1.2 billion deficit. We erased that deficit with no bonding, no additional borrowing, no gimmicks, an honest budget. You know, and that was great. We did that in record time. And what's happening, when people understand what's happening then, is we also passed the largest jobs package in state history. You know, and the word's out. So Arizona will no longer be a flyover zone. You got businesses that have already come, other businesses talking about coming, because Arizona is open for business. It's not government's job to create jobs. It's government's job to create an environment conducive to job growth. And you do that by lower taxes, lower regulation, by you having your fiscal house in order. Arizona, you know, we made that promise when we started, we would do that. There were some tough decisions, we did that. And again, when you're talking about myths and misinformation or finger pointing, one of the concerns has always been, well, Russell, at the risk of education. Education is 50% of our budget. And we cut programs 12% and more. We did everything we could to protect education. We are pro-education. We cut education in spite of these tough times, 1.5%. Give me a break.
But the howlers, they make it sound like you cut it 40 or 50% because they say the classrooms are doubling and all this kind of stuff. So how do you put up with that?
Yeah. Well, first of all, you know, and I love to talk about this because it's nice to get the facts out for a change. I know that's frustrating to some folks to have to deal with facts, but I can tell you, we have 50,000 fewer students today than we had in 2007. 50,000 fewer students in K-12. That means schools get less money, but it's not less money per child. It's less money because they don't have as many students. I know there's some folks that think the funding ought to stay the same even if you've missed a few schools. Mesa School District could close 13 elementary schools today. Don't have the students enough to fill them. And they've chosen not to close those, and it's a bad, I think, a decision that is costly to them. But the truth is, we have been very good to education. We'll always be very good to education. It is a priority of this body, you know. And the pundits and the folks that would, and again, part of this, the story is, they love to criticize. And that doesn't matter what you do. I mean, it's just like during a reduction in what you were going to give them above what you gave them, they'll call it a cut. The truth is getting more money. Education gets much more money. Universities, much more money than they've ever got in the past. We've been very generous, but again, we have a fiscal house to be responsible for, the taxpayers to be responsible too. And we must get our fiscal house in order. We've done that in a good way, I think. You're going to see job growth in Arizona. The Wall Street Journal has taken Arizona from one of the worst economies because of what's happened and past bad practices, that we're one of the top 5 states in the nation for moving forward in economic recovery and job growth. Wow, what a turnaround. Well, somebody gets to take responsibility for that, and I think it's this legislature and this governor who has put their fiscal responsibilities ahead of politics.
And it is tough. I mean, regardless, and obviously from the numbers speak for themselves that things are moving in the right direction. It's still tough on some folks, of course, and we all understand that. What are you looking forward to that you've done in the past? You say, okay, that works, let's keep doing that for the next session.
Well, clearly, one of the problems is, and like Ronald Reagan said, I mean, the closest thing to eternalize is a government program. So it's always hard to get rid of even bad programs. But we're going to take some reforms, and we're going to continue to move forward. We're going to, again, buy off the mortgage on our capital, I hope, that we actually own the place we meet. We're going to deregulate. Again, I think one of the challenges is, and I know it's tough, and you need a certain amount of government, but we've got more than we need. Again, we're overtaxed and overregulated. One of the best things we can do for job growth is to try to make it better, remove the impediments the government places in the way of businesses opening their doors and hiring folks. We're going to be very aggressive at regulatory reform and reducing the regulatory burden on businesses. At the same time, we have some new initiatives going into education that I think will improve performance and get more efficiency in the dollars we spend in education. There are some good things moving forward the state as we continue to move forward in a proactive manner to make this not just a great state, but the best place in the United States to live.